Okay, and welcome back. This is the second part of the first day of 3 days of operating budget. We are on to community safety, and Community Safety Director Horacio Galante is at the presenters table. Horacio.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be presenting the operating component for the community safety service area for 2015 to 2018 period. So the first slide on the screen is just an introduction. Community safety has currently 8 departments as part of this service area. This service area is a combination of protective services and the former public works area. So a number of years ago, the city decided to combine these 2 service areas into one. So the new community safety area was created. So the 8 departments are the GPREP, that is a regional entity. I will explain this in more detail later on. The fire department, RCMP, enforcement services, crime prevention, the transportation department, engineering services, and inspection services. Inspection services just joined the service area recently, a few months ago in April 2014. So we'll mention some successes and challenges of this newly created service area. My main goal as a director of this service area is basically the integration, better integration of these 2 former areas, protective services and public works. A number of successes that I can mention last year during the snow emergency, for example, all the parking coordination between enforcement services and transportation, the customer contact center just launched recently, and of course a better understanding and cooperation among the different departments. The level of emergency preparedness, that is a critical point as well. So we have more staff members trained in the system called Incident Command System, ICS, as well as for training for information officers during a potential activation of the Emergency Operations Center. Of course, we'll keep the focus on priorities. We have competing priorities. So that is one of the areas that we both have success and a challenge moving forward. Inspection services, as I mentioned before, is part of the team right now, and they provide safety codes, building inspection, plumbing, 4 different specialties, working in coordination as well with the fire department. Of course, our service area is highly visible, has mostly a regulatory nature. So liaison with customers is critical, and it's an area that we continue working to constantly improve the relationship with the public. So the focus areas are aligned with Council strategic plan as well. So we'll touch briefly on these 4 areas. Under optimizing existing services, as I mentioned before, we want to coordinate and better integrate our 8 departments and liaison with external agencies. Downtown is one of the priorities as well for us. So we will be working in a better integration between RCMP, enforcement services, and crime prevention for that area. We will support better connectivity in terms to promote more pedestrian-friendly downtown, encouraging alternative modes of transportation. I encourage all the department heads as part of this service area to look at what's going on around the world. So exploring global best practices, to look at what's going on not only in North America, but also in other continents, to see if we can apply different concepts to the City of Grande Prairie. And of course, finally, we need to keep in mind that the concept of winter city is to be applied to the future growth and development of the community. So in terms of staffing, I will start with City of 99 building. That's basically Director's Office, Enforcement Services, Crime Prevention, and the GPrep team. That's our facility there. There's one position that was is proposed to be a conversion. It's an existing position that started back in October 2013, so about a year ago. This position currently acts as a receptionist for the City of 99 building, also provides admin support to crime prevention, to enforcement services, and to the director's office. It's a very diverse position. There's a lot of knowledge for a person in that role. So there's a steep learning curve, and in order to keep consistency, we would like to convert this position into a permanent position instead of a temp.
See Councillor Rice. Councillor Rice, I saw you had a question in the queue.
The conversion, like, does that mean conversion because it's already in the budget? So this is not new?
No, that's correct.
Thanks, Councillor Rice.
For the Community Safety City of 99 Director's Office budget, you will see a difference here between 2014 and 15 mostly, so I will explain the change here. There's a difference of $159,000 basically between 14 and 15. So we had a number of grants allocated previously with different departments. For example, $14,000 was previously allocated with the fire department budget for safe communities. $45,000 as part of the RCMP budget for victims assistance, and $20,000 on the RCMP budget for technical search and rescue. So we decided, in order to simplify the process, to reallocate all these grants into one pot, into basically the director's office budget. Of course, we had previously, and we're keeping those funds, $50,000 for STARS and $10,000 for safe communities. We're adding into this pot as well. So all grants are now consolidated into one. It's simpler and easier to track. So you will see basically $139,000 is grant funding as part of this difference. And the additional $79,000 is because we're taking those funds from RCMP budget and from the fire department budget. So the net result is zero, but it's an easy word to track. Of course, sorry.
Councillor Rice's question was the net zero. This is the net required for the operation of this department.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
This is the funds required. I think what Director Galante was speaking about was the difference between the revenue that they brought in from other departments and the expense that they brought in from other departments. So it's...
That's correct. We're just moving funding from fire department and RCMP, these three grants, one for safe communities, one for victims assistance, one from technical search and rescue, into this area now. So it's net zero because they don't have the funds, they transfer to this. Of course, the other explanation is the additional person, so the conversion that will be part of this budget starting in 2015. And janitorial expenses that were previously underfunded for $20,000. So $20,000 plus $63,000 and the $139,000 basically is the difference that you see between 2014 and 2015. Between 2015 and 16, you see a difference there. That's about $20,000 in addition to that, and that is to provide. We want to develop what is called a dark site. And this is only for the site content. Hosting infrastructure of this is a website. It's a dark site that is going to be part of our disaster services budget. In a large event, if there is a disaster in the region, we can activate the dark site. City of Calgary, for example, activated the dark site during the flooding event. So it's a website that is kind of hidden, but can be activated with containing information about the event. So that site will replace the City of Grande Prairie site in the case of a large disaster when we have to activate the EOC. The same will be applicable to the GPrep area. So this dark site will be activated in that event. That is the change in 2016, then we're going back without those funds in 17 and 18.
See Councillor Tarrant.
Just a question on the dark side. I'm not fully comprehending, like, why can't you just upload whatever information is needed onto the city's regular website?
Yeah.
What's the advantage?
The dark side is designed to handle a huge volume of traffic. So if there's a large event, a big disaster in the area, many people will be logging into the City of Grande Prairie, for example, and the City of Grande Prairie website can collapse. So the dark side is a very simple site in terms of graphical information is almost nil. It's just mostly text and constant updates coming from the Emergency Operations Center. But it's a different design, so you won't see videos or graphical information at all. So it's designed to handle extremely high traffic on the net. So moving on. Computer is taking. Okay, well, okay. So next area is GPrep, the Grande Prairie Regional Emergency Partnership. As you're aware, GPrep is a regional entity, and the focus is basically management of large-scale events that may require an evacuation, for example, and an activation of the Emergency Operations Center. The city has an Emergency Operations Center located at the Fire Department, Station 1, and there is another one in the county. As a backup, City Hall can be activated as well, and City of 99, and basically we did that last year during the snow emergency. In a couple of days, we put up and running City of 99 as a mini EOC. So GPrep has two staff members, one coordinator and one admin assistant. Officially was formed back in 2013 when they got the ministerial order from the province, and now GPrep is a provincial resource. So in case of a large disaster at the provincial level, GPrep team will be able to contribute and will be called to help. The main focus is on training. We provided ICS 100, 200, and 300, that is an advanced incident command system training during last year. We're planning to continue to do that. The same for the communication training for information officers. The group is getting more and more acceptance, I would say, in the region as part of the other municipalities. Remember that GPrep is composed of City of Grande Prairie, County of Grande Prairie, Wembley, Beaver Lodge, Hythe, and Sexsmith. Some challenges in the past, mostly not understanding, the GPrep and the lack of public visibility. So we're trying to work on that. Some competing priorities because we have 6 different local governments as part of the team, and getting a better understanding of the role. However, I can say that the situation has improved tremendously during the last year. There are 2 areas that the GPrep as a regional team can align with the Council's strategic plan in terms of optimizing existing services. We are looking to create partnerships, potentially with the private sector perhaps in the future, providing training and potentially some sort of revenue stream. Initially the idea is to respond as a large-scale event, but in terms of training, that can be a useful resource for the private sector. So we're exploring that. And as I mentioned before, we want to explore what's going on around the world in terms of emergency response management in other parts of the planet as well. As I mentioned, GPrep has currently 2 members as a staff. There is a planning and coordinating team that some members of council here are part of the team. And there is an advisory team as well, which I'm part of that, with staff from the county, from the city, and from the other municipal members. Back in October 2013, the GPrep coordinator requested some admin support because of a large volume of admin duties. And she was basically doing everything as a one person. So this position was approved as part of the planning and coordinating committee at the regional level. And the person started as a part-time, then due to volumes as a full-time, but as a temp. So during the last committee meeting, it was decided that this person can be a full-time, and of course, because there is a city's component on the funding formula for GPrep, there is a small impact in the city's budget that you will see in the next slide. So in this slide, you will see the net contribution from the city for the different years of the budget cycle. So it's a slight increase. The impact of this position is negligible. It's about $15,000 or so. There's a funding formula. Height contributes $5,000 flat. Sexsmith, Wembley, and Beaver Lodge, they contribute $10,000 flat. And the city and the county contribute about $30,000 plus a formula based on the assessed value of the properties within the city and in the county. And it's more or less 50-50. It's 53% city, 47% county. That is the funding formula for this regional team. You will see a decrease in revenue in between 2014 and 15. So the explanation for that is that there is a surplus carried forward from previous years, and that surplus went into a trust account. But the intention is that the trust account be zero. We don't want to carry a lot of money there. So we're going to use those funds in 2014 and 15, and then we're going back in 2016 as a regular contribution using the funding formula. That's the reason of the difference in the numbers there. The trust account will be zero out at the end of 2015. And my mouse is not working here anymore, so I have to find it. Okay. There you go. GPrep has a reserve account as well, and that is capped at $75,000 and is at that level right now. Can be used for capital purchases or for operating, but it's mostly designed for capital. For example, we are researching the use of an unmanned vehicle. It can be an aerial vehicle, a small helicopter or airplane, to be used in a large-scale event to get better situational awareness. So that's it for GPrep. If there's any questions, moving into fire.
Looks like we have at least one. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. So, Rasho, I'm looking on page 134, just looking at the salary costs from 214 to 215. So it's $51,000 difference. So is that the, is that the assistant or what is that?
134.
134.
Yes, that will be the difference considering salary and benefits for the city's contribution for the conversion, plus any step increase related to the existing GPrep coordinator for both positions.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Mayor Bill. Sort of along the same lines, Horacio, under page 132, community safety, I'm looking at the salary revenue cost or I guess the salary cost of between 214 and 15, there's a difference of 91,131. Is that also for the salary increase as well as benefit package for additional or the increase of our admin assistant hours to a full-time position?
Okay, let me back to community safety. The main change, remember, is the conversion of the admin assistant position, receptionist, and support role for crime prevention enforcement services and director office is currently funded. The current funding is coming from enforcement services, but we want to transfer this to the budget of 099 director's office. So that is 63,000 plus computer, phones, and basically all the stuff for this position to be up and running.
Okay, actually, and it says in mine on 132 the increase is 91,131.
Yes, so that position accounts for 63,000. Okay. The rest should be increases plus benefits, and the rest should be for the other two positions. That's my position and the executive assistant position as well.
Okay, thank you.
So were you suggesting then that we're going to move on to fire?
Yes, that's correct. So the next slide will be fire department. Thank you. So fire department, the key services, of course, as you may know, fire prevention, fire suppression. They do a lot of fire education services as well, fire investigations after the fact. They have a model called specialty response. So the three different fire stations are specialized. They have specialized crews. Station 1 is specialized in water and ice rescue. Station 2 is a hazardous materials. And Station 3, they do technical rescue specialty. They work hand by hand with inspection services, doing the fire code inspection as part of the building inspection component. So some successes and challenges. I'm going to mention the resources for your information as well. The full team is composed for 3 senior officers, 1 chief, 2 deputy chiefs, 2 admin support staff, 6 day staff officers. We have 4 fire prevention officers, 1 chief training officer, and 1 logistics officer. We have 68 fire suppression staff and 8 full-time emergency dispatchers, and some casual dispatchers as well that we call as needed.
Councillor Rice?
Logistics officer is somebody that keeps track of where all the members are at any time.
Well, the duties are quite broad, but that's mostly the job for deputy, one of the deputy fire chiefs. Allocation of resources and where they go.
So, Councillor Rice, your question was, what does a logistics officer do?
Yeah.
I think, is it more related to the equipment and
planning and keeping on top of the equipment and the training, basically mostly on the equipment side, is up to the standards that are rapidly changing, I would say, as well.
Thanks very much.
So some successes and challenges for the fire department. Highly specialized team in these 3 stations, so that's a big success. The hiring practices and the increase in dispatch revenue. You may remember during the year the dispatch services was increased, and currently from Grande Prairie we're providing dispatch services to over 65 fire departments in the region, for approximately 10,000 incidents per year, and the fire department is responding to about 61,000 911 calls per year. Some challenges, as you may be aware, the radio system is changing in the province. The new 911 communication system that will allow a person reporting a 911 call send a photo and a text message. That's coming as well. However, that means more training and different technology on the dispatch system. Change management, as I mentioned, regulations, standards, and training are constantly changing, and this is more an internal process within the fire department. And keeping on track with all the required training. In terms of the focus areas for the fire department, they want to optimize the 911 communication technology upgrade, and you may recall during the capital deliberations, there was some funding allocated for that. This is via grants from the province. They continue with the philosophy of exploring what's going on around the world in terms of fire protection. They will be exploring different models. Because the city is growing, there may be an opportunity to provide future services on the northwest corner of the city, potential new areas. So that is one of the important items as well for the fire department. And the internal goal of keeping with the staff development and training. In terms of staffing, you see here on the screen, there are 2 positions proposed for 2016, and these are new. There are no conversions. They're new positions. And 1 fire prevention officer proposed for 2018. Again, in order to justify this, for 2016, the 2 dispatchers, the 911 calls are increasing. Only in 2014, they are seeing a 5% increase. Over the last year, between 2011 and 2013, the 911 calls have increased about 15%. Nowadays, the calls are comprised mostly of cellular calls, about 70% of cellular phone calls, and that requires more time to process because the caller's name and location are unknown. The new technology coming, as I mentioned before, with text and photos will require significant training, and we plan to keep upgrading and enlarging the dispatch services, currently to 65 fire departments in the region, but we're looking to expand that in the future. So this work requires highest priority in order to ensure a timely response. The fire prevention officer, there's 1 position proposed for 2018. It's basically to keep up with growth. The city is growing, we have more buildings to inspect. The fire prevention officer plays a significant role on that. And it's basically a position required because of growth in the community.
Glante, I see a couple of questions. One, if I can start. Up there you have the 2 dispatch positions in 2016 in our book on page 144 of the green binder. Shows 1 new position in dispatch in 16 and 1 in 18. And then it's actually the staff officer in 2016. So I just wanted to confirm there are 2 new positions in 2016, but 1 is the staff officer position, 1 is the dispatch.
144?
Page 144. So just wanted to make sure that between the slide and what we have printed in our books, just wanted to ensure which one was correct. I think the total number of positions in is not.
This slide is correct. Probably this page was not updated since August 25th. That I'm seeing the date here on the top corner. So what you're seeing on the slide, 2 positions, 2 dispatchers for 2016 and 1 for 2018 is the most current one.
Okay, so it is 2 dispatch positions, which would take us to 10 in 2016. Is that correct? So 2016 we go from 8 to 10
That's
dispatch?
Correct. That's correct.
And then that additional staff officer position would occur in 2018 rather than 2016.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thanks very much. Councillor Clayton.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Horacio, could you please explain more on the fire prevention job? There is, with the increased fire services department within our city, I'm curious on how that was assessed that is needed.
Okay, sure. So basically, the fire prevention officer, main duties, I would say, is to provide public education and to perform fire inspections in combination with the building inspection department as well. They follow the fire code and the building inspections. They follow the Alberta building code. They work hand by hand. So the fire prevention officer is the person who performs the fire inspections related, and he has the authority, having jurisdiction as far as the fire code goes. So new buildings, commercial buildings particularly, some industrial coming, residential, large developments. The fire prevention officer is involved on the final authority doing the fire inspections.
Yeah, sorry, just
Yeah.
I'd like to flag that item, that position. Thanks.
Also, the fire prevention branch has not had any new positions in the last 5 years. And that's basically the need because of the city growth.
Thanks, Councillor Clayton. Councillor Logan?
Thank you. I was on the same question, actually, the fire prevention officers. And look, as I may, I haven't been able to spot where we have the actual number of fire prevention officers. Maybe I've looked at them and just my eyes blurred over. But how many do we have on staff now?
We have 4 right now.
4 right now. Thank you very much.
Councillor Radmer?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Horatio, more broadly, I'm looking on page 145. In terms of the, so can you help me in terms of the services increase of 127,000 from 14 to 15 in the services area? And then more broadly, on the salaries part of it, I get the 3 positions we're talking about is in there, but is that also salary and benefit increases, or is there more than that? There seems to be quite significant increases.
Yeah, I will give an explanation about the changes. On the next slide here on the screen, you will see the revenue and expenditures totals here, and I can provide explanation about the changes. You will see between 2014 and 2015, there's a difference about 740,000. So that amount, basically 300,000 is due to the what we call the fleet charges or fleet maintenance. And that is an amount that the fleet department basically bills other departments, well, vehicles, for maintenance and replacement. So it's a significant increase in the fleet charge account coming from fleet that is allocated as part of the fire department budget. Okay. So that is 300,000 out of the 740. 166,000 is contractual obligations for salary and benefits. That's part of the collective agreement. There is one duty to accommodate one employee that is an LTD, so it's about 150. Over time, actual expenses that's budgeted on top of the base level now is $62,000. That is basically the explanation for the difference between 2014 and 15. Then you will see between 15, 16, 17, 17 and 18 is the increase is between 500,000, 370 and 400,000, and that is basically contractual obligations as part of the collective agreement, step increases because of progression of the employees. That's the main explanation. On the revenue side, you have basically two line items. One is the 911 dispatch revenue due to the contract with other municipalities. That is 435,000 approximately, and 600,000 for the new 911 cell phone grant. That is on the revenue line. So I don't know if that responds to your question.
So part of that was coverage, or what was it? I forget the word now in terms of when you have to add hours rather than the regular manpower you have at any one time, maybe for when they're called out or whatever.
That's
What do you
part
call
of
Just for
Backfilling?
Pardon me?
Backfilling with,
Yeah, a bit.
yes.
I noticed that the last few years that's consistently in our financial quarterly reports, we seem to be over in that area often. And so I'm kind of wondering when that's going to stop. Is that a part of administration? Needs to, why is it happening? And is part of this increase to ensure that that doesn't continue to happen? Maybe we haven't been budgeting enough, would be one answer. Efficiencies would be another answer, but I guess that's specifically what I'm getting at, because I've noticed it consistently happening over the last few years.
Yes, you're correct. That's part of the general overtime. When they respond, they need to backfill as well. So that's overtime. There are some efficiencies that potentially can be, the process can be streamlined a little bit. I have asked the fire department to provide historical trends on overtime. And back in 2011 or 12, I have the numbers. The average for the year has been between 7,000 to 7,500 hours. In 2012, because of the Sama fire, that peaked to 9,200. However, the city recovered funding from the province, so again, it was about 7,000 hours. 2013 to 7,200. So far in 2014, we are at 7,300. Budgeted for the next budget cycle, 15 to 18, they are considering about 7,500. So basically keeping the same level compared with 2 years ago, or 3 years ago if you don't consider the Sama fire.
Okay, thanks.
Is that okay with your work on
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So with this slide, if there's any other question about fire, we're moving into RCMP. For RCMP, key services, of course, general duty policing. We have a component called community policing unit connected with the school resources officer. We have the PAC team, that is basically for mental health partnership. There's one person, I think it's a psychiatrist, as part of the team responding to that type of calls. The plainclothes units, the alert team to respond to more organized crime, and our municipal traffic services. Of course, they have the bike patrol, police dog services, and other duties, fingerprinting, police checks, stuff like that. In terms of resources, this is an important slide. We have 88 RCMP officers as positions approved, you will see on the slide. What's the meaning of this? Council is approving positions first, as per the request of the officer in charge, in order to secure potential funding. Then the letter goes to K Division in Edmonton. The province will basically rubber stamp the request, but will submit the application to the federal government because they need to fund 10% of the cost per member. So the city pays 90%, federal government pays 10%. That means for this up to 2014, the budget reflects 84 positions funded, 4 vacancies. Moving on 2015 to 18, the budget is reflecting 80 positions funded, 8 vacancies. Why is that? Because that's basically to reflect the number of members at the detachment at any time, and I will give you some statistics. In 2011, and this is average during the year, and it fluctuates quarter to quarter, but average 2011, we had 75 members, physical bodies. 2012, 74. 2013, 75. 2014, 79. However, approved members were 84 up to 14 and 88. So we're budgeted for 80 because that is the number that fluctuates between 75 and 80 physical bodies here. So to really be more conscious on the budget. There is a reserve that may, if K Division says we have 2 new members for you in Grande Prairie, it's a reserve that can cover 2 members for 1 year. So we have some cushion there. However, because of the cycle between the initial letter here to council in order to request approval for positions to have, having the physical bodies here may take a year and a half to 2 years. So the vacancy pattern is always a challenge. In addition to the RCMP officers, the detachment has 37 support staff, municipally funded, 100%, provide support services in admin duties, fingerprinting, check, record management, etc. Or they have the detachment building, main office, and the satellite office at Slink, and some police vehicles, equipment, the command unit. An interesting point that I want to mention is the cost per member, and I will talk a little bit later on. The cost per member that's determined by K Division includes not only the salary and benefits, but also training and the vehicles, the car patrols, the oil, fuel, everything. So keep in mind that. Some successes and challenges for the detachment. As you are aware, the RCMP completed the strategic plan that was adopted by Council recently. In the operational component, we're seeing success in the violent crime and prolific offenders. Police are catching the bad guys with big success recently. And of course, we're also pursuing partnership with other agencies. It's always a challenge, the vacancy patterns, the records management, and to adequate resources with extreme growth that we're seeing in Grande Prairie. Collision reporting is an item that is consuming a lot of time for the police, and hopefully we can move forward a different system. There are some conversations with AUMA and with K Division to implement a different system that will make the reporting of a collision much easier.
Councillor Thiessen?
Thanks, Mayor Bill. Horacio, when you're talking about the new system, is that like in-car reporting, like electronic-wise, being able to file your reports and stuff while you're in vehicle, or?
No, the idea is that instead of going to the detachment and wait there for an hour to report sometimes a fender bender, if the system goes ahead, you will be able to go to a different location, and it's not going to consume a reporting collision center, and you will be able to pass all your information, your data about the collision to a non-police source. And they will deal with the insurance claim with your insurance company in a separate entity instead of the police. They will communicate with the police, but all the admin work that is very time consuming for police resources will be dealt by non-police resources. That's the idea.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
I see a couple others in the queue, but I just want to clarify my understanding of something first, Director Galante. So for 2015 to 2018, the number of established positions, or number of positions in the establishment, is set at 88.
Yes, that's correct.
The number of positions administration has built a budget around funding, recognizing that there are always vacancies, is 80.
That's correct.
Is that correct? Okay. I would like to flag the budgeted amount for positions and the established number of positions for the review. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor. Given you're taking some of the words out of I was going to ask. I do want to flag the RCMP reserve, and part of that's related to the funding model of percentage of officers, because we do get every year a certain percentage of monies back. It's tended to be that over the last few years, or it could have been 500,000 or 200,000 or 300 or whatever K division or whatever we get don't have officers. I think they're related. So I'd like to flag the RCMP reserve as well.
Okay, so we can certainly do that, Councillor McLean. So just to clarify, You're looking to discuss the policy, you'd like more information about how much is in the RCMP reserve, you'd like,
Not about how much more, but how it's allocated to like two unfunded officers and where that extra money's going when we don't have enough officers filling what we allocated for. And I'm flagging, yeah, and then I'll discuss it. I'm flagging the RCMP reserve, and I think it relates a bit to what you just asked.
I think it may be the exact same thing.
It might be, but I'm making sure the reserves. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Just making sure. Put mine and your name beside there. Put a dash. Put a dash between it.
Well, yeah, I don't have a question about the reserve. I have a question about the number of officers that we say that they're allowed to have and the number that we're willing to pay for.
And I had that question too.
I can comment on the reserve if you want now, or
Do you want to speak to the reserve? Sure.
so the technical name for this reserve is RCMP Detachment Reserve. It has been created a number of years ago and is capped. The amount is capped at 2 members per year for 1 year. So that is the total amount. And of course, it's up to council to change that if you wish to do so.
Turn your microphone on.
That's what I'm wondering about because we do get, seen the last few years, a certain amount of monies and it goes back into general revenue use as we are. And we can just look at the numbers we're wanting maybe increase, how the rate goes up. And if we actually use some of the monies that we got for where we don't have the RCMP, that number might come down. So right now policy states of 2 unfunded for RCMP and reserves, but the rest of the money is going that we have allocated that we don't use up. Where does that go? So that's why I'm flagging this and I'm trying to get the understanding.
Okay. So if we go to the next slide.
Hey, wait a minute. Oh, no, I got lost.
Councilor Rice, go ahead.
Collision centers. My understanding is that the models that are in place right now are being funded by the insurance companies because these fender bender claims are able to be processed that much quicker. The insurance company is able to close the file that much faster. Is that what we would anticipate as savings because we would not be funding this particular area anymore?
That's correct, Councillor Rice. We anticipate that the workload can be decreased by 2 members.
Yeah.
If we go ahead with that. Of course, we have to work on that. It's not a done deal, but that is the intention.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councilor Rice. Okay, carry on, Director Atlantic.
So if you go to the next slide, you will see the staffing request for the RCMP, and you will see a number of conversions here. So existing positions that we're supposed to convert to permanent. And there is the reason we analyze this and the criteria we use is the number of years with people in those positions. And the conversions you see here, they have been there working for at least between 2 to 8 years. So it's a reasonable period of time. The workload is not going to go away. The workload is permanent. It's going to potentially increase. And basically that's the criteria we use. There are only 3 new positions proposed, and I can speak a little bit about those positions. The PROS reviewer process is an internal system that the police has. It's basically a database. It requires a lot of attention to detail, and a mistake there can cause significant grief in the files and process. So one person is working on that, but the workload exceeds the current capacity. And this person is responsible for quality data entry and correction, and requires both review of current files and correction on the data quality and operational reporting systems. It's basically a workload situation that one person cannot do this, and it's a critical database for the police. The other position is called file clerk, that is proposed new, but in 2018. This position provides efficient access to hard copy files and documents. And this position has been managed over the past 7 years by casual and term employees. So we consider, in order to have more stable workforce there, to convert this position, to add a position in 2018. The admin support position, again for 2018. Justification for that is basically the admin support is a two-person unit since 1982, when the Grande Prairie detachment was a 35-member unit. So the numbers now have grown over the past 32 years, and they have more than 100 members. So basically, again, it's a workload situation. They prepare core documents and transcript for all the files to the members. They assist in a general investigation section, admin support in times of heavy workload. And of course, they perform the movement of security clearance files, public complaint files from the officer in charge suite to the cold storage in the basement, and perform a variety of payroll data entry, retrieving, compiling information. So again, it's a position required by growth, basically, and work volume. The other positions, such as conversions, have been there for a number of years, between 2 to 8. And they are slotted in 2015, 16, 17.
Councillor Radburn?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Actually, I think my question is for Ken, actually, I think. So, and this isn't just reflective of Horacio, this department's presentation, but we're seeing a lot of conversions, we're called. Tell me what budget line these temporary staff members have been coming from prior to these recommendations for conversion.
Mr. Anderson?
Well, it varies by the department, really. I'm not sure where they're lying in the RCMP. There's a huge number there, but it would fall within the salary component for each department.
Second question is, as we are converting, so to speak, these positions to permanent, are we reducing the flexibility in our salary costs so that we just don't have the flexibility by department to add temporary staff, and then we haven't gained anything, if you know what I mean? So I guess in practical terms, if we're just converting these to permanent, but still maintaining salary budgets to accommodate more temporary staff, then I think that's too much flexibility.
Well, the intent would be to eliminate the temporary funding and just convert that into the established funding. So it's not intended to be an add-on, keep the temporary and keep the temporary going, and then have the add-on. It becomes a permanent position, and then the temporary dollars go away.
That's correct.
In whatever salary department's budget there is. And my question also is for Greg. Will departments have to request through corporate leadership team any spending on temporary staffing on a go-forward basis?
Mr. City Manager?
Yes, thank you for the question, Councilor Radburn. That's something the senior management team of the city has recently put into effect, that all new temporary positions proposed by departments come to corporate leadership team for approval.
Thank you, Mayor Given.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Thiessen?
Thank you, Mayor Bill. Horacio, sort of along the same lines, what would the cost be to our salary line for converting all these salaries total? Is it reflected in the services line, or I see a decrease in 2014 to 15 spending, but I was just wondering what the cost of those conversions might be.
I'm just getting information here on my cell phone as well from the RCMP. So in order to respond to your question first, Councillor Radburn, the the line item is salaries. You will see that coming from that line item, and that's correct. They're saying that yes, they reduced the temp cost in order to fund the full time, so the conversions basically. Okay, so this is not an add-on, adding more temps on top of that, and on top of everything, all new temps will be filtered by CLT first. Yes.
Thiessen, you had a question about the cost. Is that cleared up with that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it sort of does. I just had one more question too. I haven't started here. The admin support conversion under insurance. Is that to deal with the claims from like collisions and stuff like that? Wouldn't we be eliminating that position if we would to move to collision centers?
The collision center reporting system maybe, I would say at best, a couple of years in the future. There's uncertainty in, if that system may happen. So we may readjust, budget lines, of course, every year as part of budget deliberations. So if the system is fully functional and there is a less need for this position, can be readjusted, part-time or different sort of coverage if needed. But at this time, we don't feel comfortable to just not including this part of the budget because the Port Collision Center is, I would say, at the very first stages, and we're having conversations with KK Division, but I want to be cautious on that.
Okay. In saying that, I would still like to flag that just for some more discussion later on.
So can you just clarify when you say flag?
Just the position for conversion admin support insurance on the last slide that we were shown.
Okay. So Councillor Thiessen's flagging the admin support insurance position. Okay.
I just want to clarify that not only this position deals with collisions, theft, breaking into property, all crimes against private property, public property, graffiti, etc., that there is an insurance-related claim, is also funneled towards this position. So this position deals with a variety of insurance claims, not only vehicle collisions. So.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. Thank you for all your descriptions. I think it could be a valid point. I just wanted to see what the workload is, and we're going to adjust or go full-time if we have to go back to part-time if that's necessary.
Just to clarify, that position is currently full-time temporary. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Councillor Radburn?
Roger, can you put the list of conversions and new up for me again?
It's on the screen.
So, here it comes. So, tell me I'm assuming these conversions and new will have a significant impact in supporting our members on the streets, so to speak. So, would it be fair to say that when you're looking at better service, it's a combination of members, but also these support positions? These support positions were not included, and then, I mean, they're doing some work that our CMP members might have to do if they weren't in place. Is that correct or not?
That's correct. Keep in mind, these positions basically provide in support or support in general to the members. The conversion is just a conversion. So the workload is there, the physical body is there, it's performing the work right now. The only difference is a temporary nature to a permanent nature, but they have been there for years working for the RCMP.
Councillor Thiessen?
Thanks again, Mayor Bill. Horacio, I'm going to go back to a question I tried asking earlier, and maybe I can get it a little more clear for myself. In regards to RCMP and their ability to do their reporting and their data entry, like I know we have like physical admin support, but does the RCMP currently have Or have we ever looked into the possibility of mobile reporting and data entry within the actual police cars? I know they have them in certain city centers and stuff like that, but that may help keep more boots on streets, so to speak.
Yes, that's correct. They can, yes, they are doing that right now. They can basically work in the car, doing many tasks similar if they are in front of a computer in the office. And we will touch that as part of the enforcement service presentation, because they are updating the system on the enforcement patrol cars. So we'll talk about that later on during the enforcement services. But the police, they're doing that.
Beautiful, thanks.
Councillor Rice?
Well, if you go back to the chart again, yeah, okay. It says CPIC clerks too, but I thought we didn't use CPIC anymore.
Yes.
We use something different, so.
No, yeah. CPIC is in use.
We still use CPIC, but you don't use PERS.
CPIC is in use. They may be moving into a more digital system next year or so, digital fingerprinting and digital records, but this system is in use.
I understand, going back to the question that was just asked, if you go back to that chart about doing on-road, so that would be where PROS comes in. But I understand that's very cumbersome and more time-consuming for the officer.
PROS is a system that they are doing PROS within the detachment. It's a system, it's a database that they are updating and inputting information, transferring information from the file, but that is done not in the car, but in the detachment.
And Councillor Rice, I think that may be the one that there was at one time a PERS was going to replace PROS, or the PERS and PROS were.
Well, PERS is Police Information Retrieval System. PROS is Police Retrieval Operating System.
I think they are intended to do the same function. I think PERS either didn't go ahead or may have gone ahead in a different jurisdiction. It wasn't in use in Alberta, or was. See, Director Roth is also dying to talk here.
No PERS here.
Yeah. So PERS was old, PROS is new. Is that what you said, Director?
Yeah, PERS is old, PROS is new, but I thought PROS wasn't working. I thought it was cumbersome. But we're still.
Well, we're mandated to use the system that the RCMP dictates. Director Galante?
Okay, so if you go back to the slide, you will see the budget numbers for the detachment. I'm going to speak a little bit about the revenue side first. You see a line item there. The revenue is coming mostly from fines, traffic tickets, criminal record checks, and fingerprinting, as well as the lease payments. We have a lease agreement with the province for a portion of the cells and other parts of the buildings. And depending if the prisoner is a provincial responsibility or not yet, that dictates who pays the bill. So it's quite a complicated system, but there is a source of revenue coming from the province because of this lease agreement. The 10% portion, the cost per member, that is federal responsibility. They just don't charge that amount of money, so we just pay 90% without getting the 10% as a revenue line item, so it's not reflected there. On the expenditure side, the main difference that you see here is the cost per member, is the enforcement contract, what we call enforcement contract. And I will give you some information about the numbers. And I'm going to talk about the 90%, that is our responsibility as a municipality. The 90% cost in 2014 is 137,000 approximately. It's going up to 144,500 in 2015, going up to 149,000 in 16, 153,600 in 17, and 158,000 in 2018. So there's some adjustments on the overtime, just to give you an indication. The overtime budgeted in 2014 is $320,000 budgeted. The real number, and keep in mind this is highly variable because the amount of crime and the type of crime. But the actual number so far is 650 versus 320. So we wanted to adjust that a bit to better reflect reality for years to come. But again, it's very variable number depending on, if it's serious crime involved, the members need to attend court, and it's a variable number. So basically, the main reason for the change is the enforcement contract, where we pay 90%, federal government pays 10%.
Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Just a quick question, Horacio. We need to say 10% funding from the federal level. So at any given time, like when we had our problem down south for water and everything, they could move 10% of the force at any given time. Is that true? Does that relate to that number? I just wonder that question.
Director Galante?
Well, RCMP, the force can be deployed where needed in the event of a big emergency. However, keep in mind we have rural members as well. As part of the detachment, they're 100% funded by the province. So if the officer in charge may decide to send for an event outside city limits, for example, just the rural members can do that. But it's usually a response together.
So to finish it off, just a question on the rural members. How much is paid for the rural members? That's what I need to know, because there's a lot of different incidents happening outside of our borders that takes up a lot of the time that, say, taxpayers are paying. So how much percentage do they pay for the rural members? Is it 2? How many?
It's 100% funded by the province, so there's no implication at all in our budget here.
Okay. I don't know.
I want to bring to your attention this slide. These numbers are not part of the budget. However, because of growth, we consider it prudent to give this information to you as a heads up that the officer in charge will be presenting a very detailed report probably in April or May next year. So this is some forecasting in terms of growth for the next 4 or 5 years. And again, keep in mind that the process is that the officer in charge will initiate a request. Council has to approve that with this number of members or a different number on the report. And then the letter will go to the province, to the federal government, and in order to see the physical bodies here may take 2 years, 1.5 years to 2 years. So these numbers, the initial plan is to have 4 members per year, starting in 16, 17, 18, probably in the mid of 16, the first physical bodies, if you're lucky, be the end of 2016. So this is a proposal perhaps for half of this budget and enter into the half of the following budget cycle. So the officer in charge will be presenting this to you in April or May next year. And you have the amounts at least for reference.
Councillor Thiessen?
Thanks, Mayor Bill. So 4 members per year, so 4 in 2016, 4 in 2017, 4 in 2018, or is
16, 17, and 18.
Yeah.
0 for 2015 because it's too late. So we start the process right now. We won't see physical bodies until...
So 16, 17, 18. My question just is on the cost. Like, it was $300,000 for 4 and 16, and then it was $900,000 for an additional 4 and 18 or 17, and then another like almost. Well, I can't see the chart right now, but it looked like another 4 or 5 for. Oh yeah, 6. There we go. 600,000 for
so
2018.
You're compounding the previous members, the base level, and adding 4 more and 4 more. So it's a compounded total.
Or cumulative. It's
Right.
another way to say
It's a cumulative.
Yeah, so it's a cumulative total. Yeah, so 4 plus 4. Yeah, I get it, but it seems a little rich for my blood. I don't know. Like, it's growing by a couple extra 100,000 every year, and I don't know how that compounds itself. Are we including like the cost of the cars and the gas, like we said earlier, on top of that?
Galante said, when we establish an RCMP position, it's a contract with the federal government that establishes those positions. So we don't actually ever pay a salary for an RCMP officer, as I understand it. We pay the federal government a contract amount. Included in that contract is the actual individual officer's salary, as well as the cost of the computer, the pens that they'll use, the cars that are supplied, all of that stuff is in the cost per officer. So there's not a direct correlation between salary and the contract, as Director Galante laid out, has predetermined increases, right? The federal government has said we can see that salaries that they will pay will increase, the cost of cars and all those other sort of things will increase. So it's we pay a per officer contract amount. Okay. Councillor Tarrant?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Yeah, just further to Councillor Thiessen's question there, I'm still a little bit confusing because in 2016 for 4 members it's 300,000, and then 2017 for an additional 600,000 you're getting 4 members, and it's the same for 2018, an additional 600,000. So why is it in 2016 that you're getting 4 members for 300,000, and 17 and 18 you're getting 4 more members each year for 600,000? That doesn't jive.
The 2016 numbers is counting only for 2 positions, because probably we'll get, if we initiate the process in early 2015, we'll see 2 physical bodies in the mid of 2016. So it's basically counting for just 2, and then instead of 4 arriving in 2016, you will see 6 arriving in 2017, and then the other 4 in 2018. So it's not like a 4 per year because of this kind of a half-year transition.
Okay. That makes it a lot more clear. Thank you.
Councillor Radburn?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Just for clarification, these numbers, this last slide, Horacio, are not in the budget yet.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. So either we would look at getting some in the budget, or we wait until the inspectors report next spring, and then we decide annually at our annual reviews.
That's correct.
Okay.
My intention was to bring this to your attention. This may be coming in April, May next year. You see the information here. You may decide at this stage to include some funding or postpone this until you hear the full report and all the details about the cost and why, trends and stuff like that from
That
the
answers
officer
my
in charge.
question. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely, Councillor Radburn. I do think that we want to have this discussion about, first off, the resources that we need to add and an appropriate way strategically to add them to the budget. And so that's absolutely my intention to discuss.
Okay. So moving on to the next slide is the Enforcement Services Department. They work hand by hand with the police as well and crime prevention. They perform different types of duties. They do animal control, business licensing, general bylaw enforcement, traffic enforcement, and a lot of safety education. The resources you see here on the screen have a program manager, 2 sergeants, 6 peace officers, 10 bylaw officers, 2 licensed inspectors, and 3 admin supports. It's current configuration. And now we can talk about the mobile dispatch for Councillor Thiessen. So these are the in-car computers. It's called mobile dispatch, and basically provides the ability to do the same work in the car like in the office. And well, that's not happening right now, but it's an upgrade into the system. And you may remember that during the capital budget deliberations, there was 1 line item for enforcement services. I don't remember now the total amount to perform this upgrade. So hopefully during 2015, they will be able to perform the same work inside the car or in the office. Okay. Another success was the regional animal pound. As you may know, in 2013, we entered into an agreement with the county and the SPCA. So we're running a unique contract, 3 parties, to run the regional animal pound. This is quite successful. Of course, the public education with the development of different brochures, very successful as well. Challenges, population growth, of course, need more enforcement services out there in the streets. as we grow in population and kilometers of roads and new neighborhoods. Different changes in mandate because the province sometimes they change. You see some changes coming from the Solgen or from the RCMP side, like taking extra training or changing in the training requirements. Sometimes an officer took some training a year ago, now it's no longer valid, they need to upgrade. So legislation is changing, and that makes some challenges sometimes for these guys. The focus areas are of course aligned with Council's strategic plan. We want to maximize the existing resources to provide excellent customer service. It's a highly visible, sometimes controversial area, so that is a key point here to be tactful, diplomatic while dealing with the public. However, making compliance with the law is a tough situation sometimes. There's a lot of education with stakeholders and proper explanation about the laws. In terms of the downtown, community mobility and downtown parking is one of the big topics that the program manager is exploring different ways to park, maybe using cell phone technology, mobile phones, apps, instead of the coins in the area. So you may see some changes coming during the budget cycle. And we want to explore practices about what's going on in other jurisdictions as well. On the next slide, you will see some conversions and one new position. Parking and photo enforcement. You will see 5 existing positions. They have been there for many, many years. Former contractors, some core commissioners. They have been working for the city for a long, long period of time. And basically, the workload is there. It's just a conversion to permanent instead of a temporary positions. Business license inspector. It's a conversion. There is one person working on business licensing, doing some work on that. Business license by law allows to a large increase on the revenue side. So the idea of bringing another business license inspector in 2018 will allow better control of the licensing process for different businesses.
I see a few councillors in the queue. So Councillor Logan is first.
Thank you. I'm quite fine with that. Existing slide, I've read and reread the previous slide, and I'm still not 100% sure what you're telling me. Maximize the use of existing resources for enhanced customer service and compliance. Sort of sounds like la, 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 la. I mean, surely, to goodness, we're doing all of that anyway. What, in fact, do you mean by that?
Well, that's about making the operations efficient, using the resources at 100%. And with this configuration, for example, for the business license inspector, the city now is licensing just a few type of businesses, just to give you an example, without modifying the existing bylaw. So just to give you an example, in the number side, having a dedicated position just working full-time on business license can generate approximately $200,000 per position per year as a revenue. Because we don't have the resources today to do that. So just the city just licensed a few types of businesses in town right now. And the parking and photo enforcement is a different situation because they are on the street and they are doing just that, self-explanatory, parking and photo enforcement.
Okay, I'll pretend I'm satisfied with that answer, but what really concerned me was this page and that first sentence, which simply doesn't make a lot of sense. Thank you. I'll leave it.
Sure. Obviously it's in the numbers, and so we can question Director Galante on the numbers. Councillor Clayton.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Director Galante, could you give me a little bit more information on the increased revenues and the conversion of the photo radar 5 positions, I think it was? Because I have a question, but I'll wait and see what I get from your information.
Yeah, if we go to the next slide. So you see the revenue side. The revenue has been adjusted in about 500,000 per year, comparing 2014 to 15, the following years.
Okay, so just so I'm reading, because I'm not quite understanding your math here, but in 2015, we'll convert 5 people that were possibly contract temporary type employees that will be doing photo radar, essentially, right?
They are doing that right now.
And the net profit is $41,000.
That's as a department. So the net
Yep.
bottom line is the final departmental number will be on the positive side, although you see a negative sign, but that is revenue.
Right. Okay.
So-
Yep. No, I get that. Okay, I'm
Yes.
just making
Yes,
sure we're on the
okay.
same page.
Yes.
And then it'll go to 75, and
Yes.
then why does it drop to 32? You think people are actually going to stop running red lights and slow down, or?
No, the significant change is basically the addition on these 500,000 on the revenue side, and the expenditure side you see is pretty constant. It's basically salary increases because of the QP agreement. You know, we have some legislated step increases on the expenditure side.
So the
you
revenue is
see-
going up minimally, but the expenditures because of salary increases is going up substantially.
Well, from 3.2 to 3.3, 3.4, 3.5 during 15, 16, 17, 18. So that's basically a step increase.
So was there any discussion of getting more positions for this opportunity of revenue?
We can. Yes, you can flag the item.
Well, we know there's lots of communities to the east of us that make good money off of photo radar, and we wouldn't be the first municipality to do it.
Yes. Keep in mind that we're working with in RFP that you will see the RFP coming in 2 weeks for the red light cameras and speed on green, and I will provide more information on that. But that may be a significant change, but still is in the works, so I cannot include numbers here on the
All right.
formal budget line. But we're working on that, and you will receive more information maybe in 2 weeks. So basically, the department will be in the positive side on 2015 and 16, 17, and the final goal for this department is at least to be neutral. We want to be create a safer community. That's the main goal. But however, because of business licensing and general enforcement, the goal is to balance the numbers for the department.
See, Councillor McLean.
Mayor Given. Thank you, Asho. Just one major question on the enforcement. I wish more departments were like that, but the one is the business license inspector. It's kind of been a lot of us that have small businesses in town, kind of something that's kind of bothered us, and as well, waiting in line for half hour, 50 minutes, and speed process. With this business license inspector, which I think will relate to optimize existing services, are you planning on getting that the heck out of the RCMP building and bringing it, or moving changes or something here? Because something's got to happen there. And if that's part of optimize existing service, I'm all for it.
Yeah, that's correct, Councillor McLean. We plan to implement this position as part of the City of 99 building, so all the business licenses will be processed at City of 99 instead of the detachments. We'll make operations for both more efficient.
Thank you.
Councillor Tarrant.
Thank you, Mayor Given. So I just want to clarify. So there's only one new position being added to the entire department.
That's correct.
I have to say, did anyone flag that yet? Did I do it? No. Okay. I'd like to flag this. I was a little bit disappointed to not see an increase when we met with administration earlier in the spring, and we were asked which departments we would like to see an increase in, and enforcement was one that came up with quite a few members of council, and so I was quite shocked that wasn't included. But at this point, I'll flag it, and hopefully we can have that conversation at a later time.
So Councillor Tarrant is flagging enforcement services.
Sorry, should I say parking and photo enforcement?
Is it parking and photo enforcement, or is it actually bylaw officers?
Sorry, yeah, bylaw officers. Yeah.
Have a wider range of
Yes.
duties.
Yes. Sorry.
bylaw will encompass that though as well, right?
Yes.
Okay, great.
The full Enforcement Services
Yes.
Department.
Great.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah.
One of the items I want to mention is the customer contact center. You know, enforcement services, they take a lot of phone calls, and that was one of the points to make, you know, the operations more efficient. So in order to respond better to the public, now with the customer contact center, you will see a significant benefit from that before they were flooded with calls and sometimes impossible to respond on timely manner.
Councillor Rice?
Go back to the business license one. I thought we don't require licenses for 80% of the businesses in town. We don't need business licenses, but we seem to be expanding that building or fluffing up that building or position.
Councillor Rice, the current bylaw allows the municipality to require business license to a variety of type of businesses. However, because of basically lack of manpower, we're just asking for that for just a very, very few types of business license. But without any changes on the bylaw, we can significantly have a better database, and this is important for economic development as well. Because sometimes people ask, you know, retail market or potential supermarkets or different types of businesses information about that, and we don't have because we have very, very few type of businesses.
I wonder if, and this is kind of off budget, but at a future committee meeting, Mr. Galante could table exactly what businesses we require to get licenses, because I know there's a lot of confusion, and I've been asked several times and have been forced to say, I don't know.
Sure. I would note that any council member could go on the city's website and look at the business licensing bylaw that actually spells out the types of businesses as well as the fees associated. So certainly we could send around that link. I don't know that it needs to go to a committee, but I'm sure somebody could find that link and send it to all members of council. One thing I think, you know, what Director Galante's has referenced is maybe better presented by economic development, because I know that there's an ongoing conversation within economic development and the business community about the benefit that increased business tracking would have, so we'd have appropriate data to make business decisions on, even business recruitment, saying where are the gaps, what kind of businesses don't we have. So I know that there's been a sort of a cross-departmental conversation between enforcement services, who does business licensing, and economic development about ways to achieve that kind of data set that would be informative.
And I still believe that doing a brief report, information report to a committee would be a much more effective learning tool than individual counselors reading the bylaw.
Well, we can certainly refer the item. Any council member can ask to have anything referred to the committee, and so the business license bylaw and types of businesses required, we can certainly refer that.
Okay. So next slide, you will see the next department is crime prevention. Crime prevention, the key services for this department is mostly education and attacking the root causes of crime. They have several programs as a base: Child and Youth Intervention Program, Safe Growth, the new CIA, the Cultural Integration Academy. There's a grant from the provincial government for 2 years. Community engagement, partnerships, and programs such as Report Drug House. They do a lot of work with development and planning as well, reviewing subdivisions and new buildings as part of the standard circulation. So they control the crime prevention through environmental design principles that apply to those buildings and subdivisions. Some successes and challenges for this department. They had a great success in creating multiple partnerships with different organizations and groups in the community. The community engagement and the visibility of this group is great, and they continue working on different programs and program development. Some challenges, of course, the evaluation of the different programs, sometimes difficult to measure in a quantitative manner, because each program has to be evaluated independently. The community demands are sometimes changing. As you may know, sometimes graffiti is a big issue for a time, then moves to a different issue in the community, and they need to play with the different priorities on the community. So there is no net. Yeah.
Go on, Councilor Rice.
Go to the salary component seems high for 6 employees.
So yeah, I'm on that slide. So you see some revenue and expenditures coming. So for revenue, we have some provincial grants and proceeds of crime. This is a very variable line item because grants come and go. They last for 1 year, for 2, for 3, and then you have new grants coming. There is no certainty. So back in, if you go to 2017 and 18, for now, there's nothing on the horizon that we can guarantee. For that reason, we budgeted 0. And then on the expenditure side, is basically flat. As you see, the amounts for 2014, 15, 16, 17, it's a decrease in the amount in 17 and 18. So there's no major changes, and there's no staffing request for this department.
So, Councilor Rice, would you want to highlight?
Right, the salaries component.
Sorry, you're talking page 141.
Yeah.
Booklet? Monte, do you want to speak to the salaries line item?
141? Here you will see a difference because of the 2 positions. The provincial government is funding the Cultural Integration Academy with 2 positions. So under the salaries, you see the salaries of these 2 positions. However, you have revenue as well coming from the province. And these positions are granted for 2 years. That's right.
Thanks for that
A little
clarification.
more palatable.
Next slide is the transportation department.
Let's say we'll go in different parts. Transportation is actually a fairly large area, so yeah, we'll take a break we'll say we'll turn the cameras back on at 5:02. Okay, so we'll call it back. We are a few minutes behind. I think that's the first time in any one of our breaks, so we haven't been within a minute. We're a little bit over there, but I think everybody's refreshed and ready to go. So Director Galante, we're continuing on with transportation, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next slide on screen is the transportation department. So key services, they perform, of course, the snow removal operations. They maintain all the gravel roads, the street cleaning, spring cleanup, very important task. All the asphalt road maintenance and the concrete maintenance for sidewalks, curb and gutter, etc. Street lighting in terms of replacement. ATCO is providing the maintenance of the system, but we have to approve a replacement based on technical parameters. They perform maintenance on railway crossings in coordination with CN Rail as well, for the approaches and the concrete paths, not for the rails. Rail is responsibility of CN. Traffic signals, they perform maintenance, traffic signs, and the videos, inspection and maintenance of storm sewers. And we'll talk later about all the resources. I want to mention successes and challenges for this department. As you're fully aware, the new snow and ice control policy both has success and a challenge because of it's a significant change in the way that the city performs snow removal operations for a long period of time. So we are entering into this winter season, and so far it's going well, but we will continue monitoring this. Citizen Contact Center is another big success in coordination with other departments as well, that will help the transportation operations because of a large number of phone calls they receive during the year. Looking for always for program efficiencies. They went through a full lean process and assessment last year to identify waste as part of the processes and the operations, and they are streamlining some of the processes. The city is growing. It's growing very fast, so there's always a challenge on the infrastructure and growth. Every year we're adding more kilometers of roads, sidewalks, curb and gutter, street lights, benches, all the urban furniture. And sometimes challenging the staff. Certainly they have to hold certification as equipment operators, and there is a big demand on the oil and gas industry as well. So there's a lot of competition for equipment operators and technical people as part of this transportation department. Quick synopsis on the focus areas. Again, aligned with Council's strategic plan. As part of the lean process, they are developing more effective utilization of in-house staff and contractors as well. Remember, we use contractors for the snow removal operations on the residential areas. So it's a learning curve, it's an educational component as well in order to gain efficiencies. Downtown core, we're moving into trying to get one dedicated contractor to perform all the, for example, snow removal in the downtown core, and we're targeting the same process for general maintenance on the area during the summer months. Exploring new directions. Similar to other departments, they want to see what's going on around the world, what we can learn from other jurisdictions, and things applicable to Grande Prairie. So moving a little bit faster on this, you will see some conversions, a few new requests for the transportation department. In a nutshell, conversions, again, similar to other departments, are positions who have been there for a number of years, usually more than 2 or 3. You have people here working for 5, 6 years as temps. Wanted to convert this into a permanent employees because the workload is there, it's not going away. We forecast an increase in the workload, potentially with the annexation area coming in the near future. And the new positions are related to growth. New kilometers of roads, more signals to maintain, more signs, more concrete, curb and gutter, sidewalks, and more equipment to operate. So that's in a nutshell. the requests.
I see Councillor Rice.
What is a, oh, go back there, please. Oh, here it is. What is a MW2?
Maintenance worker slash operator. So perform some maintenance duties and operating heavy machinery as well. And categories go between 1 to 4, level 1, 2, 3, 4. Positions are proposed in a variety of years, from 15, 16, 17, and 18, depending on the need and the growth forecasted. In terms of new subdivisions on the residential side, and if the annexation area goes through, you will see Transportation Department will be approaching the council, particularly once the area and the location is determined. So there's nothing here considering the potential annexation. So moving forward, you see the overall transportation budget here in this slide with the different programs as part of the department. I will highlight significant changes that you see in the numbers. The first account you will see a big jump is called administration or common service administration there. It goes from 1.1 to 4.4. That's a significant jump. And they have a number of heavy machines, and the fleet department sends a bill to transportation for the cost of maintenance and replacement of all the equipment. So in 2015, there is a significant increase on the fleet charges from 2.6 million to 3.7. That goes into that account called Common Services Administration. So out of the 4.4 million in 2015, 3.7 belongs to the fleet charge account that has been consolidated in all the different programs and moved into one lump sum into the administration account. A net increase of 1.1 million compared with 2014, just in that account.
Councillor Rice.
Where was it before?
For the fleet charges was 2.6 million and is going up to 3.7, so 1.1 million increase in 2015.
Where was the fleet charge reflected previous to this adjustment?
In the different programs.
So each program would have had a portion of that total amount.
That's correct.
Okay. So gravel roads would have had a portion,
Yes.
asphalt roads would have had a portion, and so on.
That's correct.
Here showing going down.
That's correct.
Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Maybe we could, just a heads up to Mr. Anderson, just to speak to fleet charges in terms of those changes in numbers and in how it's allocated. Will we get there?
Ken's heard the note. We're interested in a little bit more discussion around fleet charges so we understand it all a little better, I think.
Okay, what happens with fleet charges is there's a rental rate established. And the rental rate covers a few things. It covers the fuel consumption, it covers the repairs and maintenance, and it also puts money away for a replacement at the end of the life cycle of the vehicle. And each piece of mobile equipment has a different rate associated with it.
Has there been, in this budget, are there significant increases to fleet charges as relative to last term's budget?
There has been, because in prior budgets there was a push to reduce them to somewhat unrealistic amounts. So what we've done is we've looked at what is the proper amount to service, fuel, and replace this vehicle at the end of its life. So we believe we have the right rates now.
So what I'm hearing is you say it's a necessary correction.
Sorry?
I think I'm hearing you say it was a necessary correction.
Yes, it was a necessary correction, and there was somebody in CLT before that made an arbitrary decision just to reduce it, to help us reduce the tax increase, but it didn't reflect reality at all.
Thank you. Okay, Director Galante.
Okay, thank you. The other account that I want to mention is the snow removal overall account. It's a small increase, depending the year, between 90,000 to 180 to 200,000. And the explanation for the change basically is to allocate some extra funding to buy more salt, sand and gravel, and an extra allowance for damages due to regular operations in the community. So that's the change on that account. Not significant.
On snow removal, that damages account, is that reflective of increased use of contracted services rather than city services? Like, are we seeing more damage because we have more private contractors rather than city forces doing our residential program?
Mr. Mayor, we provide proper training to the contractors as part of the orientation, and we follow up initially during the first couple of months on site. However, I would say that the explanation is because we're growing and we're adding more kilometers of road to plow. And I wanted just to give you some more information about the numbers for the claims, because it's not substantial. So we're increasing, I think, between 15,000 to 25 or 30,000. So it's a relatively minor amount on the account called claims. So it's not significant. Thank you. So in a nutshell, I'm going to talk a little bit about the revenue as well. Transportation department, they have a small revenue side, some provincial grants for road maintenance of provincial roads within the city, maintenance of the provincial traffic lights within the city, some work for asphalt patching that we do for Aquaterra, the high load permits. So a small revenue, but still there's a line item. And the main change on the net, on the bottom line here that you see between 14 and 15, 2.4 million is the difference. Is again the fleet charges, and a little bit on the snow removal account, and staff increases for the unionized workers. And that's pretty much the explanation for the changes. After 2015, the budget goes up about 2% in 2015 and about 4% between 16, 17, 17, 18, just to cope with growth and the new infrastructure to be added to the city.
Okay. Questions? Councilor McLean?
I don't know if I was going to wait for everything, but I do want to flag the fleet charges. I do want to review that and discuss it tomorrow.
That might be something that would be highlighted in Director Anderson's presentation. So certainly, maybe let's wait until Mr. Anderson presents. Maybe you can give additional information on the fleet charges. Do you have a sort of a nature of your question so that he can be prepared to answer it when he does his presentation around services?
Basically, it's a huge number forward, and I just want to know about, we're staying with the new equipment. We're not going to run this older one, and gas. I want to know the whole envelope.
So, Mr. Anderson, when you do your corporate services presentation, maybe if you can give us a little bit more explanation on the changes to the fleet charges, and that'd be helpful. Okay, Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, McGinn. So, Ratio, I'm looking on page 151. So, can you help me in terms of when we were talking about our change in our model? We're talking about being more efficient and effective without having to increase significantly resources to snow removal. So I guess my question is, if you look at 214 to 215 and 215 to well, it's generally increasing, I guess mainly the first year. Are some of the additional staffing, your staffing slide, is most of that in this area? And it's because of not our model, but the increased area we have to cover? Does that make sense?
That's correct, Councillor Radburn. It's mostly due to growth, some staffing additions that you will see in the next, well, you saw on the slides. but everything is basically related to growth. Keep in mind that the residential snow removal operation is performed by contractors. So city staff performs maintenance on priorities 1 and 2 for the snow removal. There's no change in the method there, and it's highly contingent of weather. But the main difference is growth. It's more kilometers of road to maintain overall.
Councillor Rice.
Last week, council sort of appeared, in my opinion, to go off on a tangent and approved a whole bunch of new traffic lights. And yet your budget for traffic lights has decreased, which makes no sense at all. Like we threw in traffic lights that weren't budgeted to come up until like 16, 17, and yet your budget shows that traffic lights going down. So are we kind of talking out of both sides of our mouth?
Page number?
Councillor Rice, do you want to highlight a page number for us so we can?
128. Well, no, on the slide. On the slides.
Oh, the slide. Okay, let me go back to.
Sorry.
Traffic lights.
Second from the bottom, or third from the bottom.
Okay, so there has been some reallocations as well on the salary side. So some we're trying to simplify the overall budget. So you may see some changes then, but some parts of the salaries for the people working on that particular program went to administration. Okay, so you may see a movement between some programs to the administration account. That is just a reallocation of resources.
Okay.
Councillor Clayton.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I won't get into discussion of things that are needed and not needed in our city, but I did have a question in regards to street cleaning. I see it's gone down quite a bit. Can you explain more on that to me?
We can bring up that previous slide. It probably has.
Right there. Street cleaning. Yes. So for street cleaning, I think there has been the fleet charge that before was allocated under that account now has been grouped with all the other fleet charges on the different programs and moved into the administration account.
Yep, thank you. So we're not performing less street cleaning.
Oh.
Okay, good.
Okay. So if I move forward on the presentation, next department is the engineering department. We have engineering and inspection, so two more departments before I conclude. So for engineering, they perform a variety of duties. They issue permits, perform construction inspections, provide technical advice, prepare servicing agreements for private land development, addressing. Of course, they perform all the capital project management and perform the life cycle analysis as part of the asset management system and the traffic system management, or ITS, intelligent traffic system as well. Established positions, we will go into details later on, but they have a few requests, mostly new positions. And I want to mention we're working in a transition in coordination with inspection services to transition the drainage component, the lot grading component of inspection services, working more on the engineering side. We want to amalgamate all the drainage area as we have a more specialist position in engineering, working together with a lot grading coordinator and another position coming. So we can basically keep together the whole drainage area from lot size to master planning as part of engineering. Of course, working together with inspection services. I will go into more details about that. Some successes and challenges for engineering. Of course, you're aware the intelligent traffic system is almost implemented. You will see better coordination on the overall system. It's still a work in progress, but it's a big success. The city received an award a few months ago in Victoria. The new trails and sidewalk program, basically connecting missing links, and a new ranking system, how to come up with capital plan based on this ranking system in coordination with the community mobility plan is a success. And of course, you're aware of an extensive capital plan on the engineering department. So they need to perform inspections and project management and keep the cost under control. So there's a lot of work on the capital side as well, and it's a branch of the engineering department. Challenges, recruitment, to recruit engineers, technicians, particularly at intermediate and senior level, is difficult here. So relatively easy to recruit junior positions, but they stay usually a few years, and the turnover rates are quite high at that level. So we're going to target perhaps a different approach to recruit and retain more senior positions in the future. Asset management, infrastructure asset management is an item that we need to work more. Infrastructure is aging, and we need a better system to predict proper maintenance in terms of extending the life of the assets. Communication with stakeholders, again, because of the variety of stakeholders involved in the capital plan, is an area that we're working towards improvement in order to provide constant updates via email or via different electronic means to the people affected for capital projects and functional studies and stuff like that. And of course, we need to maintain relevant documentation and records, and has been certainly a challenge over the past few years. The focus areas for this department, of course, is aligned with Council's strategic plan. And development is a significant component of the department. You will see more and more subdivisions coming on board in the near future, mostly on the residential side, but you will see some commercial subdivisions coming as well. One of the items that we want to encourage more is alternative modes of transportation, especially active transportation. So when the subdivision process is under review, we encourage development to better connect subdivisions, making subdivisions more pedestrian friendly and bike friendly, instead of just designing everything for cars. Encouraging transit as well. Some staffing requests for the department. You will see a development engineer as a new position proposed for 2015. This is part of the development engineering branch. Keep in mind, with engineering, we have development engineering branch, capital, and traffic or transportation. Transportation engineers, we need two, one in 2015, one in 2017. This is basically to keep up with all the transportation and traffic needs, all the intelligent traffic system, all the new street signals coming on board, all the new functional studies, all the transportation studies, the transportation master plan. So the transportation component within the engineering department is critical in the years to come. And a project engineer in 2018 to help on the capital side, and we're targeting a senior position to help on that area in 2018. So these are the positions proposed.
See Councillor McLean.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a quick question, Horacio. You're saying that brought my attention to asset management. There's some cities and towns in Alberta that are part of a group that are evaluating our assets and infrastructure. We're not part of it. Do you know the name I'm missing? Like it was at AUMA, and I can't remember. I even attended the meeting, and I forgot to write it down. Are you leading to that aspect of possibility? Like I'm wondering.
Yeah, that's correct. Town of Hinton, They develop an interesting system for asset management. This is a little bit different compared with the tangible capital asset reporting system. The municipalities should report new tangible capital assets at the end of the year. This is mostly to better predict when to allocate some funding during the life of an asset. Can be a water pipe, a sewer pipe, a storm pipe, a curb and gutter, a street light, a bench, to extend the life of the asset. If we don't perform maintenance, sometimes for a few years, then there's a sudden drop on the life expectancy of the asset. It's like a road. If you don't maintain an asphalt road for 12 years, you will need to do full reconstruction. If you start maintaining it 7 or 8 years, you will extend the life to 17, 18 years. So it's that system with
better data
and follow up in terms of the full life cycle of the asset. That's the asset management system that we want to develop better in the city.
Thank you.
Councillor O'Toole?
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. Just a question in regards to the outcome of the annexation. Will there be a need, and I know you mentioned growth, but are you incorporating that when you say growth, the possibility of engineering services there?
We consider the potential areas to be annexed. However, we don't have any certainty on the amount of development and the timing of the development. So as soon as we have a concrete idea, concrete resolution about the area and the location of the area, we'll be talking to potential developers to ask about plans for the future. If they tell us we're going to develop in 2020, 2018, 2022, some projection for the future, at that time we will come back to council based on that information and our best forecast if we need to allocate more staff on the engineering side. The same will be applicable to the inspection services staff.
Okay, fair enough answer. Thank you.
Now, I see some of the administration rang in. Administration one. Is that Mr. Anderson? Did you want to respond to something there?
Speaking of annexation, we haven't factored any of those costs in. We're waiting to see what the final annexation area will be, and then we'll develop a package of both revenue and costs and bring it to council at that point. To do it now would just be a guess as to what we will get.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Anderson. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Rasha, I'm looking at page 168. So the slide you had previously in terms of the increase in the engineering services area, I think I identified 4. If I'm looking on 168, full-time established positions contemplated more than 4. But so my question is it 4, or is it? Or are there other new positions to come in this process?
The transition with inspection services and lot grading coordinators moving there.
All right, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So let's go back to the budget numbers, and this will be tied into the staffing request as well. But I can mention for the positions, you see that engineering will have 24 in 2015, and they have 19 now. So we go to the, you see 2 positions in 2015, and then the lot grading coordinator that today belongs to inspection services. There are 2 positions, will be transitioned into engineering. However, has been budgeted as part of the engineering budget. You will see positions in inspection services on the chart, but will be transitioned. We are doing some pilot testing right now, but all of those positions have been budgeted as part of the engineering budget. Okay, so if we go to the slide, you will notice a difference between 2014 and 15 in terms of on the revenue side. And of course, on the bottom line, on the net, basically between 2 to 3, so 1 million difference. I want to explain that. Then 15, 16, 17, and 18 is pretty constant, 150K increase. The big difference there, years ago, many years ago, the engineering department, as part of all the line items, received a transfer from capital tax, basically some property tax, as a revenue for 450,000. And basically that was to pay for all the hours allocated on the capital programs for the inspectors and salaries, basically, working on capital programs funded via capital tax, not grants. Okay. A couple of years ago, that was noticed and has to be corrected, and the auditor mentioned that. So in this budget cycle, we're basically reduced, or the net result is 0. So we have to include 450 extra as an expenditure, basically for salaries, but that money will remain as a property tax. It's not going to be transferred. Okay? It's mostly a correction in the accounting, but that happened years ago. But I want to correct and reflect the proper system. So that accounts for approximately half of the difference. Is 1 million. This is 450. So the rest is a little bit more on consulting, $30,000, and the rest is for staff increases, asked here. So that's the explanation for the difference on the net, and of course the revenue between 14 and 15. The rest between 15, 16, 17, and 18 is basically step increases because of the overall staff for the engineering department.
Councillor Radford?
So can we just get the slide again? Could you just show a couple slides of the new staffing increases in this area?
So, Councillor Radford, this is. Yeah. Did you want to ask about this?
Trying to confirm that it's 4, because when you just did the review a minute ago, you said 5, and then some others. So I honestly don't really know how many new staff you're asking for in this area.
5 in 2015. Yes. That's correct. 5. 19 to 20.
So this shows 2.
Yes.
Slide shows
the other
2.
positions are coming from inspection services. Yes. Thank you. You will see that on the other slide. Okay. So going to the next slide. It's inspection services. So as a key services for this area, they issue permits basically on 4 different disciplines: building, electrical, plumbing, and gas. So we have inspectors for the different disciplines. They are fully certified, different levels, 1, 2, and 3. So they they compile information and provide the statistics to different agencies and the provincial government, and provide education and communication to the general public and contractors. And of course, the main goal is to enforce the Alberta Building Code and the Plumbing Code, and they work hand by hand with fire department in terms of fire inspections. Resources. One manager, one supervisor inspector, 2 permit technicians. In support, 7 safety codes officers, 1 lot grading coordinator that now belongs or will be transferred to engineering, and then 1 temporary position and 2 casual positions that we call as needed.
Mr. Rice?
At one point, we were having difficulty recruiting in that area that we considered doing some, rather more expensive recruiting. Has that problem been solved now and we don't need extra money there?
It's always a challenge to recruit building inspectors or plant inspectors, gas inspectors. However, at this time, we are almost at 100%. I would say we have some temporary positions, some casuals we call. I would say that in the next 3 to 4 years, we may face some retirements, and we may be again in difficulty, perhaps bringing other inspectors. But for the next budget cycle, we should be covered. Some successes and challenges for this department. File management strategy. You're aware that a few years ago, back in 2011, I believe, or 12, the city had 18,000 files open. It was kind of a low point. And nowadays, the system is performing better, and the building inspectors caught up with that. And the current number of files open varies between 2,000 and 5,000. That is normal because of the cycle, 2-year cycle or 3-year cycle for a typical construction in town. And if it's commercial or residential or multifamily residential, that is the number of years I would say that file takes to be closed. There's a new permit system that is called City View on stream. Back in November 2013, it's working well. It's coordinated with the development area, with planning and development. So they initiate many times a development permit that is loaded into the system, and the building inspectors follow up, and it's working very well. And finally, as I mentioned before, the staff levels are okay right now. And they recruited a few positions during the last year. Some challenges, of course, is keeping the training and staff levels for the next few years will be okay, but it's always a challenge in a very demanding industry. They're in high demand. They had some challenges with the computers. The former permitting program crashed a couple of years ago, and that created a big problem for the inspection services. And they will be completing a file management strategy within 12 months of an audit with minimum resources. Some focus areas, again, aligned with council strategic plan. Compliance is a big topic. This is public safety. So the manager and the supervisors, they have to really be creative to use the resources at hand to provide proper customer service and compliance with the code. The education of builders and stakeholders, homeowners, sometimes is a critical point as well, because they are not familiar with technical matters on the code, and there's always it's a time-consuming process. They want to learn about what other jurisdictions are doing, if we can be improving our systems, and one thing that council may see coming in the next year is the ability to provide some sort of incentives, exploring alternative sources of energy. For example, just to give you an example, using solar hot water for space heating and domestic hot water. So when we come up with a revision of the municipal building bylaw, incorporating some sort of incentives for houses, we use solar hot water system for heating and domestic hot water mixing on the hot water tank, part of water heated by the sun with the backup system using natural gas. So we're trying to be more proactive on the renewable energy sources in the future, and you will see an amendment of the municipal building bylaw. course, we're growing fast, and this department is feeling the effect. They perform multiple inspections, and they're constantly reviewing plans and going on site to be sure that there's proper safety on those buildings. In addition to the existing position that I mentioned on the first slide that is transitioning towards engineering as well, there is another lot grading coordinator senior called here that I'm showing this here, but it's budgeted on engineering and will be moving there in 2015. This is a senior position. We have a more intermediate or junior position. And then one position that is particularly for inspection services is called the front counter receptionist at the service center main lobby. You're familiar with the service center, so you see some people working there. However, they are working, nobody's dedicated to respond to a customer here and there. They do that just ad hoc there. They go and provide some customer service. But it has been noted that in order to provide better service and consistency, a dedicated position is required. For that reason, inspection services manager is proposed in this front counter receptionist in 2015.
So, Mr. Galante, just to clarify that front counter receptionist would handle front counter reception duties for all the different departments that are there.
That's correct.
It just happens to be in inspection services.
That's correct, because it's the first area that you face as soon as you enter into this service center. But yes, we'll provide services for the full tower. I would like to highlight a few graphs here as well. Let's talk about budget numbers first, and I prepare a couple of interesting graphs for your information. On the revenue side for 2014, you see a net positive balance, although it shows negative, but it's green, so it's a surplus on the operation of the department of 732,000. Same situation will occur in 15 and 16, 1.6 million surplus in 15 and 94,000 surplus in 16. The main reason for this is the new hospital and all the permits associated with the construction. And you name it, can be a permit for the helipad, for the parking garage, for the superstructure, for foundation tanks, for everything within the legal lot. So a variety of permits, sprinkler permits, but these are the amounts expected and the distribution of the permits. In 2015, we're expecting 1.7 million, mostly because of the parking garage. That is significant. I think it's a structure to where the total number of parking stalls will be around 1,200 or 1,300. Portion of the permit will be carried to 2016, so that's the significant contribution to the balance of the department, and then we're going into a more business as usual schedule in 17 and 18. So we made an effort to really forecast the revenue for the next years in a conscious manner, and we prepared this graph here showing some trends. Back in 2003, you will see these are the permits, total types of permits. Can be building permit, can be HVAC, can be a fire sprinkler permit, can be a basement renovation, can be a deck. So total amount of money for all permits under safety code. So you see the amounts in 2006, 7 peaks, and then was a big dip in 2008, 9, 10, recovery in 2011, 12, 13, 14, and there's an anomaly in 2015 and 16 a little bit because of the new hospital, so keep that in mind. So when we have to forecast revenue projections for 17 and 18, Of course, we talk to developers and to builders to see what is coming down the road for those years in terms of we can forecast, the number of permits and the money attached. So we talk to a variety of developers and the plans they have. So these numbers are quite accurate.
See, Councillor Clayton.
Mayor Given. Director Galante, could you tell me, just to verify for sure, that this increase isn't reflective of a cost per application, or if that's truly because of growth?
Sorry, say that again?
So the revenue that it's gone up on your last slide substantially, you're implying that it's largely because of the hospital projects. This isn't because each application or inspection has gone up per inspection. It's truly because a sign of growth.
There was no change on the fees and charges.
Okay, thank you.
For the department. And just as a comment, we're we're substantially lower than the provincial average in all our fees and charges.
Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I don't know if I could just bring a committee on this one. I think the price is really fair, but what I'm looking at is where sometimes you pull a permit, you have a rough or a close, and they'll have to come back again, and you have to rebuy a new permit at the same price. And I think that could be a room for maneuver of, if you're making inspectors to go out again, you're taking away from another area. So I'd like this to be brought for prices and that back to the committee to be looked at, some ways that we could look at this.
Okay, so do you want to clarify what it is that you want to have referred to?
I believe it's when we're overworking our inspectors, certain contractors, this does happen, and we're pricing them the same to reissue a new permit. I believe that we could look at that new permit, like if you have electrical permit and you have a rough-in and then a closing, but say they came in for the rough-in, but you had to do another rough-in, and then they have to come back a third time, you have to apply for the same permits, the same price. But I believe that's where the city is lacking on, and it's taking up time. So I'd like to bring that forward to see how other areas are looking at with that.
So are you talking about the fees for reinspection?
Yes, I believe there's fees for reinspection that like to be brought back to the committee. I think there's room to move.
I can give you some background on that. This will be.
I think Councilor McLean isn't proposing to change anything here at budget, so maybe that's just an item we'll refer to the appropriate committee.
All this will be part of the municipal building bylaw revision that you will see during the next year. Okay, so finally, I want to show you this graph, and thanks. This graph is showing the total number of permits color-coded for different land uses or building classifications, I would say. So in green, you see the residential component. In blue, the commercial, yellow, industrial, and red, it's industrial yellow, institutional red. So you see that it's a significant component in the residential side. And I want to mention what Mr. Anderson pointed out at the beginning of the capital budget presentations, an example from Red Deer County. Not necessarily we can extrapolate the numbers, but as a general framework, the cost to service commercial land, the ratio revenue versus cost is 1:1. You get $1 revenue, you spend $1 for servicing. On the industrial side, it's 14 cents as expenditure and $1 as revenue. But on the residential side, that is basically what is Grande Prairie now building, is $1 revenue, $1.66 expenditure. So it's very expensive to service residential land. Of course, we don't have current numbers here for downtown, but as a general reference, interesting to see the importance of developing industrial areas to better balance the tax base. And these residential permits that you see here do not include minor alterations, for example, decks, sheds, garages, or basement development. So it's kind of a major houses and commercial buildings. So finally, this is the last slide, is the budget summary. With all the different departments, we've been talking for the last few hours, and bottom lines, and overall revenue and expenditure. So this I conclude the presentation for the operating plan for Community Safety Service Area.
Galante? Don't see anybody in the queue. It was almost as though it was meant to be. That's it's 3:56. We're done that service area. We have, I guess, 2 additional service areas left tomorrow. How does that fit with our schedule? Is that about what we were imagining? Okay, good. So we'll adjourn for the afternoon. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning to start up, I guess, with who's going to go first? Community Growth. Community Growth service area will be up first tomorrow morning, and we'll see everybody here then.